Love it or hate it, the Season 7 finale of Game of Thrones tied up dozens of loose ends and unraveled a few more, setting us up for the darkest, coldest final season imaginable. But enough with talking about the future. Let's unpack some of the Easter eggs, references, and things you might have missed in the Game of Thrones Season 7 finale, The Dragon and the Wolf. As we watch the Unsullied stand strong before the walls of King's Landing and Bronn and Jaime watch out over the parapet, we hear a mashup of two themes we've never heard together before, Khaleesi and the Rains of Castamere. Whatever you think of the writing this season of Game of Thrones, there's no denying that composer Ramin Djawadi has far from lost his edge. He's still a master of stirring up emotion and telling the story with sound, and this episode was one of the best examples of that yet. As the Targaryen and Lannister forces converge for the first time in this series, not just on the battlefield but in negotiations, so do Daenerys' theme song and the Lannister theme. While the somber melody of the Rains of Castamere is distinctly audible, we only hear those foreboding minor notes from the beginning of Khaleesi, really emphasizing the tension between the two factions.
Come on, bud. Let's you and me go have a drink while the fancy folks talk.
While it might have seemed like a charming nod to their former friendship, there might have been a far more intriguing reason why Bronn had to pull Podrick away for a drink while the fancy folks did the talking. Jerome Flynn and Lena Headey were rumored to have been linked romantically in the past. According to a 2014 article from The Telegraph, one source revealed, Jerome and Lena aren't on speaking terms anymore, and they're never in the same room at the same time. Bronn needs an excuse to exit the dragon pit before Cersei makes her entrance. The pair have never shared a scene together, and it looks like they weren't about to start now. While it seemed like the writers were bending over backward this season to distract us with a conflict between Sansa and Arya, they might have been dropping little clues about this Littlefinger showdown all along. One Redditor explained that his girlfriend had been complaining about the distracting squawks and squeaks of so many ravens every time before or after Baelish came on the screen this season. We know ravens are now Bran's preferred medium of warging, so is it possible that these creatures are how Bran sees all that is unfolding in the world, and how he learned the truth about Littlefinger's devious plot to divide the Starks once more? Have the ravens been watching Littlefinger this whole season? Back in Season 1, when Ned Stark refused to bend the knee to Joffrey, the Lord of Winterfell turned to the City Watch for help when Joffrey commanded the King's Guard to seize him. Of course, Littlefinger had already gotten to the City Watch, ensuring their loyalty to Cersei and Joffrey, betraying Ned and ultimately costing him his life. While our hearts broke in shock and fear as the City Watch refused to help Ned, we got a sickly satisfying reversal of that scene as Sansa sentences Littlefinger to die. Baelish turns to the Knights of the Vale, but he's too late. They've already pledged loyalty to Sansa and refuse to help him. Arya slashes Baelish's throat just as Baelish once held a knife to Ned's. While Jon Snow's forgiveness of Theon wasn't super high on the list of things we knew we needed this episode, there it was anyway, superbly acted by Alfie Allen, if somewhat superfluous in general. As Jon reassures Theon that he doesn't have to choose between being a Greyjoy and being a Stark, Theon humbly accepts this pep talk and goes off to do the right thing. While this is all very important for Theon's never-ending redemption arc, Jon's affirmation of this opinion serves a dual purpose. While we wonder what the Mother of Dragons might make of her lover's newly discovered lineage, we don't have to wonder so much what Jon will think. Jon doesn't have time to worry about things like succession and lineage with the Great War on the horizon. He'll no doubt be able to reconcile these two halves of himself with the matter-of-fact lack of fanfare we've come to expect from the brooding bastard of Winterfell, who is a bastard no more. It's not often we hear the now iconic Game of Thrones theme song measure for measure within the show. Yet as Jaime leaves King's Landing, snow fluttering all around him, it plays quietly but confidently. It's a choral version of the tune, with wordless voices adding a human, emotional quality to the usually dark sounds of the cello. The theme itself signifies the beginning of the show, the beginning of the story. While this abrupt goodbye might feel like Jaime and Cersei's story is finally over, the song tells us that the great game has only just begun, for Jaime and for everyone else. After last week's big reveal, fans have deliberated over what exactly the deal is with Viserion now. Is he an ice dragon? Is he a white? Is he a white walker? Well, we can table the ice dragon theory for good, since an ice dragon is its own separate species and would have to be born that way. While some wondered if Viserion might be a white walker, and thus resistant to fire, due to the way the Night King reanimated him by putting his hand directly on his nose, it's now clear that that's not the case either. Viserion's yellow wings have started to decompose, signifying his status as a lowly white. Indeed, there's no real way he could have ever become a White Walker, as both the White Walkers we've seen became so while they were living, not after their deaths. According to A Game of Thrones, the first book in A Song of Ice and Fire, whites have twice the strength of an ordinary man. Therefore, we can assume that Viserion is twice as strong as his former self, which would explain why he was tearing around the wall faster than an undead bat out of hell. The upside to this discovery, however, is that unlike White Walkers, whites are vulnerable to fire. So while Viserion might be twice as strong as his siblings, they still have the power to take him down in a blaze of glory, or at least in an epic explosion of blue and red flames. What else did you notice about the Game of Thrones Season 7 finale?